All right, welcome to another edition of Talk Nerdy to Me. I'm Troy Stegner. I have my co-host here, Trevor Cooper.
Good morning, fellow nerds.
And we had the distinct pleasure of interviewing Walter Welsh from season 10 and 13 of Faceoff. How are you doing today, Walter?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
And we're happy to have you. You told us before we started the interview nothing was off limits, so no, we're not going to do anything hard to you. So
it's all good.
Let's start with some simple stuff here. I'm reading some of your history here. It says you were a college football athlete. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I played football pretty much most of my life, and I eventually went on and played at a JUCO, junior college. I played for a year and a half there until I tore my ligaments in my hand, and I decided to hang the cleats up.
Can you tell us which JUCO it was?
Yeah, I played for Diablo Valley College in California, in the Bay Area.
And what position did you play?
I was an outside linebacker. I was kind of like a stud backer, so I just kind of rushed the quarterback and had outside contain.
You got to do all the fun stuff.
The fun stuff without all the crazy middle responsibilities, yeah.
It also says you were into competitive bodybuilding.
Yeah, right after I tore my ligaments in my hand, I had to wear a club for football, and that's kind of why I stopped playing. It's just, I don't know how guys can do it. It's really difficult. And I ended up gaining like a bunch of weight. I ballooned up to like 280 pounds, and I just hated the way I looked. And someone told me I should try to lose weight by shooting for like a competition. So slowly I lost a bunch of weight, and I went from 280 pounds to down to like 189, and I competed in bodybuilding, and then I continued to do that for another 3 or 4 years, 4 years total.
So how did you make the jump from that to art? Because then you got into some portrait painting, it says.
Yeah, I had always been into art. I took there was like a college elective course in high school called AP Art, and in order to get into that, you had to take art every year. So I usually always took my elective in high school, an art elective. Both my parents are really artistic, so I've been drawing because of them my whole life, and my brother's super artistic, so we've always been into art. And once I decided I was done with sports, other than bodybuilding has always just been like a fun, passionate hobby of mine. I followed sport, and I lived the lifestyle as far as healthy eating and working out every day. But it was never something I wanted to like do professionally or anything. It was just a goal for me in the gym. Art was something that I've always really loved and wanted to pursue. So when I transferred from Diablo Valley College, I went to Cal State East Bay, and I got my art degree there. And when I was there, I was doing portrait painting and airbrushing and stuff like that. And then once I was doing all the airbrush stuff, I actually saw the show Faceoff. And to be honest, before the show, I didn't know too much about special effects. I knew of like Stan Winston and Dick Smith, but I didn't know too much about the greats or any other thing besides those two and the work that like Stan Winston had done and Dick Smith had done on The Exorcist and stuff. And from there, I just really started taking a passion in it and researching and watching things and reading things, and kind of all went towards that direction from there.
Wow. What was it like working with those the three greats you had on there, V. Neil and Neil Hetrick, and how was all that?
It was really great. We don't get to work too much. We don't get to talk to them very much. You only get to really talk to them if you make it all the way to the finale and, once it's all over, you get a moment with them. And then other than that, the only time you talk to them, if your makeup is a top or at the bottom. So, it's kind of far and few in between when you do get to talk to them. But when you do, it's really great. V is really sweet and, just overall really great person. Glenn usually has some of the best feedback, constructive criticism wise. He'll tell you something is bad because this, and that this can really help you next week, because you can say, oh wow, he didn't like it because of the way the asymmetry is. So next time I'll have better asymmetry or more symmetry, or whatever the criticism was. And Neville, he's also super great. He's a fantastic concept artist and 3D designer. So anything from him, I try and listen to.
And how about Mr. Westmoreland? Did he give you guys a lot of good feedback?
Oh, Mr. Westmore is fantastic. Yeah, his feedback's always great. My absolute favorite thing though is before we actually start filming anything, Mr. Westmore comes in and he gives us this little class. It's not really like a class, like a learning class. It's just a couple things to like prepare us for Faceoff, like how to make sure a foam appliance is completely water sealed, so that if they get completely submerged in water, the foam doesn't soak up with water, or you don't drown your artist or your model by having the foam appliance fill up in their nose or their mouth, and cool stuff like that we go over. But one of the coolest parts is he tells us stories about when he was working, and he told us this one story about how he was working with Michael Jackson when Michael Jackson would want to go to the movies or something incognito, to where he didn't have to have a bunch of paparazzi rush him. Michael Westmore would come over and put some prosthetics on him and disguise him so that he could go to the movies.
So Michael Jackson,
huge Michael Jackson
dial.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know the show is heavily edited because you guys take so much time and can only show so much. Is there any cool stories you have that didn't make the cut to the show that you can tell us?
That's a hard one. Those come up when I'm watching the show. I'm like, oh man, why didn't they show that? Off the top of my head, it's harder to think of. Definitely a lot gets edited out because we're filming for like 22, 23 hours, and that all gets crammed into an hour. And with commercials, it's more like 47 minutes or something. But I can't really think of any off the top of my head.
I kind of put you on the spot there. So
I every week something comes up and I'm like, man, why didn't they show that? But now off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
I'm sure in the beginning you guys are aware of the cameras there. At what point do you start forgetting that the cameras are on you while you're working?
Actually, the camera guys are some of the coolest people in the crew, and it's who we see the most, because they're following us around all the time. So a lot of us kind of built relationships with the camera crew. We saw them as friends, and we'd joke with them, and they'd crack jokes with hand signals or point and laugh at people. And the camera crew were really fantastic. So we would get in the zone and work, but a lot of times we would, chat and joke with the camera crew, especially if the cameras weren't rolling. We would talk with them, or if we ever needed anything, we had to actually communicate with the camera crew. Like, hey, I'm bleeding. I need a Band-Aid. They would call in first aid, or, if an accident happened, they're who calls in whoever needs to come in, whether it's the material specialist or the first aid guy or whatever you need. So, when you're in the zone, you're in the zone, and you can't you don't even know that they're there. But for the most part, they're always there, and we're chatting with them and hanging out with them. They're part of the crew in the show.
That's actually kind of cool. You were in 2 seasons, season 10 and 13. You were always one of my favorites. Like I told you last time I met you, that we were really rooting for you. And it seems like both times you were the bridesmaid and just never the bride. You got the runner up both
Right.
seasons.
Yeah.
So, and especially this past season, season 13, the guy who won was the one in my mind, I put at the bottom, and I put you and the other guy up top, and I put you above him just because of the progress you made from the first looks to the finished product. You pretty much redid everything completely, and that gingerbread man was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
I had a really good time on season 13, and it was a big difference from 10 because I had a good time on 10 and I met some fantastic people, but I kind of struggled throughout the first 3 quarters of the season, and I was always a safe look, rarely ever a top look, and I started to really get my groove at the end when I just started doing what I wanted to do, because in the beginning I was just desperately trying to please the judges. And then finally I was like, you know what, if I go home, I go home. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And that's what ended up helping me win. So coming into 13, it was like, I'm just doing what I want to do. I've learned so much since then. And 13 went really well for me. Actually, I did really good throughout the whole season. And it was, I don't know if it looked that way as a viewer, but in my mind, it kind of felt like it was, I was on the top for, throughout the whole season. So it kind of boosted my confidence and was a lot of fun to do really well throughout the whole season. I was never a bottom or anything.
Have you been able to parlay that into in some jobs?
Yeah, one of the cool thing about the show is that it opens our talents up to a wider audience, and so from the show, I have definitely gotten emails and inquiries via Facebook and Instagram about, hey, can you make this mask for me? Can you work on this? So I've done a couple of movies, and I've done a bunch of different cosplays for people, thanks to the show.
Yeah, I see you did a couple episodes on Grimm, which was one of my favorite shows before it went off air.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
And I believe, go ahead.
Yeah, I worked at the shop, B2 Effects. It's owned and run by Barney Berman. He's an Oscar-winning makeup artist. He was his shop was kind of my first go-to into the Hollywood effects world. I was just kind of like a shop hand there, so I never really got to do too much. I went and I got materials for them, and I helped with the dirty, uncomfortable jobs that nobody wanted to do, and swept the shop and stuff. But a couple of times I got to work on really cool stuff for Grimm. Every now and then, we would be short hands, and they'd say, you know what, go ahead, paint this body, and I'd get to paint a full silicone body of some burnt creature from the show. I actually did like 3 full bodies where we would have to, I think one of the gremlins was getting burnt to a stake in one episode. So I did a full burnt body where we laid these black transfers over a foam body that we had, and we spray them with acetone, and it would melt and look like charred burnt flesh. Really cool. And then another one, it was just, we took a bunch of different silicone burn appliances from a bunch of makeups they had from Star Trek and Grimm and all kinds of stuff, and we kind of just Frankensteined all these pieces on this other silicone body, and we made a burnt silicone fabricated body. It was really cool.
Are you working on anything currently that you can talk to us about?
Nothing. I just wrapped on a couple of things that I can't really talk about, but I'm working with, she is from season 6 of Faceoff, Margaret Kerrigan. I work with her a lot. She owns Pandora Effects here in the Bay Area, California. So She brings me on. I help her with things, and then I'm her mold maker and foam runner. So I work a lot with her, and then other than that, I do my own thing as far as like cosplay, and I really like making like collectible masks and stuff like that. So I have my own Etsy, and I'm selling masks and stuff. But the production side of it, I usually work with her.
Go ahead and plug your Etsy site
Very
for everybody in case they want to grab one of your masks.
Yeah, my Etsy site is Welsh Creations. If you go to Etsy, just enter Welsh Creations, WELSH Creations, and you should see my stuff there. I sell armors for costumes and props and helmets and masks and makeup appliances. And if you have any kind of commission work that you need done, you can always find me there or on social media, Instagram at Waltimus Prime.
Great. I kind of dominated this conversation. So did you have anything you wanted to ask him, Trevor?
I just had one or two questions. So I've always been kind of fascinated by the world of movie makeup, and I've looked at some of the stuff you did, and it's absolutely amazing. First of all, and congratulations on getting so far in Faceoff for 2 seasons, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I was particularly noticing I forget what you called it, but it was like a not a sea monster, but like a sea siren costume you did, a makeup.
Yeah, the water temptress?
Yes, that one. Very cool. The coral specifically was awesome. I was just wondering, with a lot of movie makeup, its job inherently is kind of to almost not even be noticed as makeup. Have you found any difficulties with trying to put your own flair into something that maybe they almost don't want to be noticed on camera?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest things to try and look for is, that you don't want it to look like a special effects makeup. You want it to look seamless and that it blends into the skin, that it looks like it's natural, something of the earth or something of another planet, whatever it is. I've definitely tried to make things look like they have a purpose. So if you're going to stick like a horn on the side of the head, it needs to either be extremely aesthetically pleasing or it has a purpose, or if, like for her, I looked at a bunch of coral to do her horns, and I tried to emulate the coral within her horns, and I put little crab legs on her, like she had kind of predator mandibles, but they were crab legs instead. I just tried to take little things and place them in there that I saw from fish and coral, and I grabbed a bunch of real things that exist in reality, and I tried to put it on her, and I think that's the best way to accomplish that. Another big struggle is in a world of so many different artists and things that people have created, it's really hard to be original. So that's something I'm always struggling with, because you do something and you think it's original, but somebody's already done something just like it, and they'll come climbing down up your back saying you copied them. So it's hard to be original and when everything's already been done.
Right. And the other question I had, so you said you've grown up in the Bay Area, California. Do you find that the setting, the area kind of inspires a lot of the makeup that you do, or I guess where do you kind of find the inspiration for a lot of the looks that you've done before?
Yeah, I love the Bay Area. I was born and raised here. I don't know how much it inspires the stuff I do. I do like water type creatures, and I am close to the water, so maybe, I don't know, but for the most part, I'm just a huge sci-fi nerd, and I love movies like Predator. Predator was probably the movie that really fascinated me, and I watched the VHS so many times I broke the VHS, and that creature is kind of what got me so heavily into this. And that was how I knew who Stan Winston was, because of that creature. So things like that, and I really like scales and fantasy stuff like dragons and different reptiles. So stuff like that I really like to pull from and find inspiration from.
Very cool. I think that was the majority of the questions I had, Troy.
Yeah, I think it does it for me also. I guess we will let you go, Walter, so you can go create some more cool monsters for us to see.
Right on.
We got your Etsy already. Is there any other of your sites you'd like to plug before we leave?
Just the Etsy, and if you're listening, and you can follow me on Instagram. I post a bunch of really cool stuff at Waltimus Prime. That's primarily where I post things. Not as often on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that.
Well, great. Like I said, it was an honor speaking with you, and thank you for doing this interview with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to coming out to El Paso again.
And we're looking forward to seeing you again.
Right on.